And so this talk really comes from, it was inspired by, a last couple of meetings like we've met, and I hear some of your shares or just things that come up. And, I hear people like going through struggle, taking things on, going through struggle. And my heart is like, oh, I wish I could just hug you. I wish you knew like how special you are and just how much love you deserve and just, like, and that feeling that you get, it like wakes you up to like, how could you ever be hard on yourself? How? Oh my gosh, like you're so precious. How, like, we don't have time to be hard on ourselves. I'm sorry. There's room for apologies and forgiveness, absolutely, but to be hard on ourselves, mm-mm, mm-mm. There's just too much good, too much good. So, um, how is it that we don't be hard on ourselves? How is it that we don't take our suffering so personally, right? Um, and I honestly, I won't start with that. Um, This is a great example of not being super prepared for a talk, and please use this as inspiration for you to one day give a talk as well. Um, Again, this was inspired by events and feeling that, and knowing, oh, wait a second, that feeling is not just a me thing, it's something that we can all kind of tap into and feel. And the honesty of that there is that it has probably been there before. And if it's been there before, my guess is that it is still there residing. This love that you just feel that is rising up like a wellspring. Um, and it's it's so funny, like if I were to ask you, here we go, just take a time to reflect this past week, maybe today, something very simple that you did that was a gesture of kindness. You know, you said thank you, or you let someone pass you in line. Um, Even a smile, right? Meeting someone consciously with a smile is an act of kindness. Would anyone like to share anything that's coming up for them? Just a little thing of kindness, generosity that they showed um, kind of automatically today. And no sharing has to be done, but this reflecting definitely. You know, helping family, volunteering, all these little things that we do. And if you want to go even deeper, this practice of mindfulness that leads to this sense of gentle kindness. How did you drive your car? How did you brush your teeth? How did you feel towards logging onto the computer, et cetera, et cetera? Is there goodness there? Is there a sense of gentleness and kindness there? Um, and thinking about like your day to day, like honestly, I would assume all of you are super kind, loving, great people. Uh, and we probably just don't notice it. Yeah. Like it's so auto. It's like, yeah, I didn't even notice that. But I thought about it like when this hit me, it was on a Sunday. I had just finished volunteering at the UUBN church for teaching religious education to kindergarten through second graders. And, it's like, it's just a thing I do. But then thinking about all the little things, that person, that smile, what I said to that person, how they shared this, and all of these little things, and then thinking, what if I wasn't there, right? And asking yourself that, whatever you do day to day, what what would it be like if you weren't there? If you just didn't show up, you know? Sure, life would go on and things would kind of reorganize and, work again. But by subtracting yourself, sometimes you can see what it is that you add, you know? And by subtracting yourself and saying, wait, I'm not a part of, I want to be a part of this. Yeah, I want to go out and do the daily stuff. I don't want to be removed from that. There's a reason why I get up and do this. And so, yeah, maybe just closing the eyes and just thinking about your day to day, driving the car, doing whatever. And how are you meeting that with kindness? How are you expressing goodness? And in my definition, simply sitting at a stoplight, being aware of the breath, wanting to be more calm, that's extremely kind. That's extremely generous. Yeah, coming back. And so recognizing the goodness that's already here, the goodness that's already in you, and that it does come through. I feel certain of it. And so you've got this goodness. We do it all the time, but it's so auto, it's so everyday that, quite honestly, I feel like we should all get a lot more appreciation. Each and every one of you, I want to say, good job. Like, I sincerely believe that all of you are actually trying your best. You're truly trying your best to be a good person, to be safe, to be happy. Yeah, how could I fault you for that? How could you ever be hard on yourself for that? Um, and, have you ever felt that for yourself? Have you ever said to yourself, good job? You deserve a pat on the back. Good job. What does that feel like? Does that feel kind of like like this false humility of like, I know, I know. Or have you ever just been like, good job? Mm, I'm proud of you. Mm, mm. That feeling right there. Oh, wow. Why can't we do that to ourselves all the time? What's holding us back? Why is that just not a thing? Because I have found that when I do this for myself, it comes out just in my, like, I'm so happy for you. Like, that's become like a common phrase for me because it's in my mind. It's what I feel. That wasn't really in my vocabulary, previous. I'm so happy for you. Great job. This is great. All very, very real stuff. And so, yeah, what keeps us from loving ourselves fully? Lots of different things. One is that love was withheld from us, and that had an effect on us. And we learned that if we withhold love, it has an effect, even on ourselves. And we've also accumulated these voices in our head, right? Without sounding like whatever, but these voices may not be different people. They may be different people. But, if you sit there and listen to yourself, how you're talking to yourself, what it is that you're saying, what you're thinking, it's almost as if you have these different like roles. You could say different voices. You have the taskmaster. Yeah, I should be doing this. What time is it? You have the nurturer. Oh, good, 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 good. And then, you have this voice of truth, this voice of reason, that when that thing says something, you know it's true. It's like, even if it's speaking in a relative truth, it is a truth no matter, right? Um, love always wins. That's a truth inside of me that just will never change. And, that's probably going to come through in this talk. But, um, and it's these voices, they have different tones, right? And with mindfulness, we can kind of recognize what it is they're saying, how we're reacting it. But for me, what's really helped is tone, how you say something. In many world languages, they're tonal languages. So, in Portuguese, coconut is coco and poop is coco, right? It's that slight sense of tone that changes everything, everything. And so what are those tones of the voices in your head? Because that kind of comes back to this sense of good job versus good job, right? It's the tone that's there. That's very, very important to pay attention to. And so withholding our love, withholding love from others, but also receiving it. One of the worst things that we can ever feel is a cold shoulder, right? Feeling shunned, feeling not liked. Um, it's a very cheap and effective form of punishment. Think about timeout in school. Oh, like, uh-oh. I'll make sure I don't do a lot of things so I'm not in timeout, so I'm not rejected. Um, and I see it all the time. It's very, very common of someone does something, it makes them angry, and so they say, I'm angry, right? So we're expressing our anger to influence the situation, to influence someone else. Well, without thoughtfulness or mindfulness, we can use that to abuse people, punish people, make them feel something that is not true. It's so limited. It's for the purpose of control, right? And so, withholding love, so damaging, but so effective that sometimes we don't even notice it, that we may not even notice that we're withholding love from ourselves. Oh, oh, that's terrible. Um, and it makes me think, like, serial killers, mass shooters, one thing they all have in common is that love was withheld from them. Yeah? Love was withheld from them in a big, big way. And what happened? Right? It brings this, I heard it from Jack Kornfield, I'm sure it's from someone else, but some people hurt so much they'll burn down the village just to feel the warmth. Just to feel some kind of love. And so maybe just taking a time to kind of feel in of any withholding there may be, showing up in this sense of shame or the inability to forgive. And we're not going to dwell in this. We're not going to dwell in this, but just acknowledging anything that may be there for you. And so it is not easy to show love. I'm not going to come in here and be like, yay, everything's great. My life will be perfect now that I love myself completely. Absolutely not. This is a process. This is a major process in waking up, feeling truly free. And so working with strong emotions. One second, sorry. As someone who's been practicing this for a number of years, it still surprises me at when I feel hurt by someone, it is like hitting a wall trying to send metta to them, right? Like, May you be well. It it doesn't communicate, like it doesn't flow out of me, right? Think about that. If you're in a situation or whatever and you're feeling hurt emotionally and it's hard to give love freely, that's normal. That's a wonderful place to start. Yeah. And just having compassion for that block where love cannot flow and saying, oh my gosh, oh, the love's not flowing here. Oh, there you go. The love's flowing. There we go. Um, and holding compassion there. Um, and forgiveness for yourself. All of these super duper duper hard emotional things that will come up. Yesterday, it had to deal with a very, very important relationship to me where we were both like this. And it makes me think of someone else who's going through a really hard time in their marriage where they say their partner won't listen, right? And the feeling of this is, I'm not being heard. You're not hearing me. If you heard me, then we wouldn't have a problem. And then the other person is doing this, and they're both crying, saying, that feeling of not being heard, being in a relationship with someone and feeling stuck by it. It's not happy. It's not good. It's not changing. You're in for the long haul. What are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to show love? How are you supposed to just, everything's fine, everything's fine? It's by this practice. It's by knowing what is inside you that does not change when you are feeling your absolute lowest, when you feel like you want to explode with rage, when you feel you are on the verge of doing something you may regret. You can take a breath, you can stop, and you can pat yourself on the back. You can mentally give yourself a hug and feel the softening that just happens. But we have to become familiar with it. We have to acquire a taste for it. And I mean, this is a big deal. It makes me think, one way that cancer cells go cancerous. So a cell, it has DNA. The DNA gets damaged. The damaged DNA replicates into RNA, and the RNA is a mutant. And so now it creates mutant stuff. And so part of that is, these organelles aren't forming correctly, and then the way the cell communicates with other cells begins to shut down. The ions are not exchanging. It loses contact. It doesn't know what cell it is anymore. And it's like, well, what? No, I'm just doing my thing, because it's not communicating with the other cells. I just love. And then the cell proliferates into this thing that's like a mutant, and it doesn't function and it doesn't work well with others. And I just see that analogy in so many things, especially in ourselves. We've got these voices in our head, oh, you're not a good person, da 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 da, and it mutates and creates something that's not functional, and it separates us from everyone else. That's how big of a deal this is, right? This is not a, hey, everybody, kumbaya. No, this is a big deal. This could be transformational for you. So, I don't know. I've said a lot. I've said a lot. Whatever anger and hate that you find in yourself, I would like to think was put there or was taught to you, and it can be rooted out. Please do not be the continuation of the hate that was put in you. Please learn deeply that hate does not stop with more hate. Revenge is never as sweet as it tastes, I promise. Hate ends with love and compassion every single time. Um, yeah. And so This ability to love yourself, to know the truth in this self-love has given me something that I'd never imagined, and that is the ability to be assertive and to speak my mind and to have incredibly difficult conversations with people that are always for the better. In every single domain, my relationships have improved because I meet them honestly and authentically. And all of these tough conversations, like if you could just think about your own life and all of those things, like I wish I could say that to that person. Those things become available and you can say them in a way that is non-harming. You are only strengthening yourself. And so with this, that you can stand unshakable in your own love. You can have all sorts of things happening to you, but the truth of what is in you that does not change leaves you feeling unshakable. Meeting the moment with kindness, being yelled at, and feeling compassion for someone. I can't explain how it happens. It does, though, and that's what I want to communicate to you guys. So, for this practice, turning up appreciation, you are a good person. This is not about vanity. This is not about, look at me. In our culture, it's like, it's kind of taboo to be like, hey guys, look how awesome I am. Did you know I'm awesome because this, this, this? It's like, whoa, we don't do that. Do that. Do that. You deserve it. Honor yourself. Talk about how awesome you are. That's totally fine. Yeah. And it is from this place of standing firm, knowing yourself completely, knowing what you stand, why you believe in things, why it is that you do. The heart, when you are able to love yourself, becomes a compass, and you start seeing why it is you're doing stuff. And it's, if you're there for it, or, if that's the way you're inclined, you're moving on a heart level. That's what's orienting you. And with that, there is great freedom. Because like I said, how can you fail? How can you fail? And I guess lastly to close, that this whole thing has really, really changed me for the better. Before all of this, I was a very, wearing my heart on my sleeve, in a professional setting, giving people high fives and hugs, and, that was, okay for the workplace. But, once the Me Too movement happened, and I thought about, how, how intrusive that could be to people, or to people who are just not having a great day. It's like, oh, you know, yeah, whatever. And in that entire time, I never felt this kind of love inside myself. It was like I needed it from others. Like I needed that response of love to keep going. That's burnout right there. So yeah, let's love ourselves. I've been talking for a while. Let's jump into some meditation.